What is going on, everybody? It's LtBuzzLitebeer, and one of the questions I have been hearing a lot lately is, how are the skill builds and weaponry stacking up in Title Update 12? And I am here to tell you that they are still really potent and receiving even more options in this coming update. But before we dive into my general impressions of Title Update 12, if you haven't yet smashed that sub button for intensive Division content, please do so. And don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another upload notification from my YouTube channel. There are also links to support my content creation outside of YouTube, Patreon and Teespring, both listed in the video description, and you can really help out the channel by simply watching the entire video, leaving a comment, and a rating. Alright, let's dive into Title Update 12. Okay, so the first items I want to discuss as far as this deep dive into Title Update 12 are going to be the new weapons we're going to see, and I'm sure you're seeing videos popping up all over YouTube, especially from those dedicated Division content creators about these specific weapons, and I'm just going to give you my general impressions of each. The Capacitor, this weapon that I'm on right now, is an exotic assault rifle, even though it's modeled on the PDWR, but there you go. This is going to be the new best-in-class, at least this is my opinion, best-in-class item. You're going to want this item for a skill build, and the reason for that is capacitance. That is the weapon talent. Shooting enemies builds stacks up to a cap of 50. Each stack grants plus 1% skill damage. And you're going to see next to your scope, this ACOG optic they have on this PDWR, you're going to see a 0 up to 50 indicator. Once you hit 50, it generally stays pretty pegged out at 50. That means you're getting an extra 50% skill damage as long as you just keep popping shots. And for the build that I'm running in this Title Update 12, I am using a force multiplier backpack, so I've got to keep connecting shots with targets about every 3 seconds to keep that extra skill damage bonus. But overall, the weapon, I mean, it handles well. It only shoots, I think, it fires at, 700 RPM. It's kind of held back by the mag at 30, but it has a really fast reload speed. I think it's listed down here somewhere, but it's like 1.8 seconds or something like that. So it reloads fairly quickly, especially if you got your shade rank all, maxed out on your watch. I actually like this weapon. This is, for me, is going to be what I'm going to be chasing once Title Update 12 goes live, as long as it doesn't change. And from what I'm told on the State of the Game stream, you get this for completing, I guess, 5 challenges in 1 ascent of the summit. So that'll be probably one of the few times that I actually attempt any of those on the summit or the summit in general. But yeah, for that plus 50% skill damage. And if you wanted to compare it to, say, something like probably the current best in class, which are going to be these Harmony rifles. Down here, 20% skill damage, 20% weapon damage. They increase, so this is only 40%. Okay, so you get 40%, whereas the Capacitor picks up 50%. So you're getting an extra 10% for using this weapon. Now, if you look up here, it's kind of interesting. It has 2 core attributes: assault rifle damage and damage to armor. Okay, and then it has a standard health damage attribute. Normally on an assault rifle, it has a very large health damage attribute, and then down here the attribute kind of flies around to whatever you want. But this weapon's kind of, I guess, stacked in a different way. But there you go. Down here also, don't sleep on this. For each, this is skill tier, gain plus 5% weapon damage. Now I did activate over here the base damage. It's only at 40k. Now, if you go to even like your crafting bench and you look at your assault rifles, this is going to put this weapon, just on looks alone, as the weakest assault rifle in the entire assault rifle category, because it just has weak base damage. But it's not really designed to be used on an all-red build. It's designed to be on a skill build. And down here, it's going to reward you with 5% weapon damage for each skill tier you have. 6 skill tiers, 30% extra weapon damage. All of a sudden, this weapon becomes a lot more competitive. It'll outpace a FAMAS for just base damage. Obviously not a FAMAS on an all-red build, but a FAMAS. And it's somewhat competitive with like a SIG 556, something like a mechanical animal. All right, so I'm going to jump from the exotic version of the PDWR over here to the named version. This is called the test subject. And you can see down here, this is pretty much the standard configuration now for the PDWR. There's the health damage back where it's supposed to be. Assault rifle damage, health damage. This one's got crit chance. Obviously, I can go and roll that to anything I want. But the test subject is essentially the PDWR, or the full auto version of the Harmony named rifle, which is that one. So it's got perfectly in sync. There you go, perfectly in sync. Same idea. 20% skill damage for 5 seconds for hitting an enemy with your weapon. 20% 20% skill damage for using a skill to hit them. If they're both damaging at the same time, buffs double. So you're going to pick up 40% skill damage, 40% weapon damage. Once again, you can see it's just a little bit under the capacitor, but then again, it doesn't take up an exotic spot. So if you wanted to use a different exotic, maybe you want to run around with, I don't know, a Sweet Dream shotgun to get you some melee damage in case you get rushed, you could do so. Still decent weapon. One difference you will notice down here, though, the test subject will not allow for an under barrel attachment, whereas the capacitor has one. So you can kind of customize this the way you want, but you're going to miss out on the under barrel attachment. One thing I do want to jump back and also show you on the capacitor is look at the mods it has on it. 10% crit chance, 15% crit damage, 15% crit damage. That's 30% crit damage and 10% crit chance just on the mods alone. And then it has weapon handling, which is obviously going to affect the reload speeds a little bit. So you can see the capacitor is pretty stacked up to be really, really strong for a skill build versus the test subject. Still a really great weapon. A lot more health damage on this weapon. But, you know, it's not going to hit as hard as a Harmony rifle. But in case you're running into carpal tunnel syndrome, especially on mouse and keyboard, this is an excellent option in case you want to run around with perfectly in sync, but you just don't want to spam away on the trigger. Okay, so I know a lot of people want to hear about this weapon. This is the new exotic 612 shotgun called the Scorpio. And this thing is a ton of fun in its present configuration. I really hope they don't change it. Now, I have not tried this weapon out in PvP, so I apologize. I have not tried it out. I am not going to try this weapon out in PvP. I do not PvP in the Division 2. But for PvE, this weapon is just damn fun because of this septic shock. Shooting a target applies stacks of venom, which lasts for 10 seconds. Increasing stacks add more severe debuffs to the target. So if you hit a target once, it's going to put a poison status effect on them. If you hit them for 3 shots and 3 stacks, it's going to disorient them, so they kind of stagger around. 6 stacks, shock, so they're going to be shocked and just basically, you know, CC'd in place. And if you hit them with 7 stacks, target takes additional 20% damage from all sources. So you could have a turret up there pegging them. You could also have another squad member or a third squad member running a Scorpio as well, and then all of a sudden everyone's weapons start doing 20% extra damage. So it gets absolutely mental when many people in your squad, like multiple people, for instance, we ran in a squad of 3. We had 2 members running the Scorpio with like all red damage builds, like Hunter's Fury. And then I was over there running on my Eclipse Protocol with a Vial Mask with the Scorpio. So as soon as I killed a target, obviously with the Vial Mask and Eclipse Protocol, we had status effects stacked up 6, 7 at a time. We were just absolutely spawn locking closets on heroic level missions. So this weapon, it gets really strong in multiple group settings. We did not try it on Legendary. We did not try it out in a group of 4. So no squad of 4, only 3 or less. But it's a lot of fun. And this is a weapon you really want to try and get. Down here are the mod slots. Reload speed. You can see it has a pretty quick reload speed anyway. I think that's per shot, but it also has crit chance, weapon handling, and stability. So right now, as far as PvE, I love where the Scorpio is as far as the balance is. It's not exactly going to be used on a skill build, but for anyone that wants to just run around and just absolutely decimate PvE content right now, especially in groups of 2 or 3, the Scorpio is the bomb. Okay, final weapon I wanted to touch on in Title Update 12 is the Scalpel. This is a 308 marksman rifle, and I am not very impressed with this weapon. You can see on the PTS here, they all come as maxed out. I believe I rolled damage to targets out of cover onto mine. And it comes with future perfection. Weapon kills grant +1% or +1 skill tier for 19 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. Weapon kills at skill tier 6 grant overcharge for 15 seconds. Overcharge cooldown 90 seconds. For those of you who run around with a mechanical animal, future perfection. It's the same thing, but on a marksman rifle. Now, herein lies the issue with this thing. if I'm going to use a marksman rifle, I'm obviously going to go just for sheer damage. I'm going to go for headshot damage. I have my Nemesis. I have my Aces and 8s build with like Headhunter and things like that on it, and I can hit way into the 50, 60 million range consistently with a Nemesis. With this, on that same build, with all reds, all headshot damage, I had like 313, 320%, something like that headshot damage. I was hitting like 5 to 8 mil headshots. Now, if it was a red bar on heroic 3-man, or maybe even a veteran, I could pretty much one-tap them, but elites were just overpowered for this weapon. So I don't really know where this is going to fit into the game. I don't know many people that run around with an actual marksman rifle. I know people that run around with rifles, but not with a marksman rifle on a skill build. So to me, this is kind of a waste right now. I am not going to be using a Scalpel, just for the sheer fact that, like I said, if I'm going to be using a marksman rifle, I'm going to go for sheer headshot damage and just damage output. Beautiful weapon, handles well, looks smexy, the whole thing, but it just does not hit hard in comparison to the Nemesis. So in my current view of this weapon, my opinions of it, I'd say this is a hard pass when TU12 comes out, but there you go. Okay, so we're going to shift gears now from weaponry over to gear, because this is kind of important for Title Update 12. In Title Update 12, we've got a new exotic holster, we've got a new brand set, and a new gear set, all of them tailored towards skill builds. Now, also, I could have covered back on the weaponry, I could have covered the non-named versions of the PDWR and the 308, but we've seen the named versions, we've seen the exotic versions. I didn't feel that need to actually dive into those and cover through those. This is the new exotic holster, and just like I said for the Scorpio, it was the bomb. This waveform holster is the bomb. This is best in class for Title Update 12 as long as it stays in its current configuration, and that is because of alternating current. Generate a stack of 3% skill damage on one of your skills every second, capping at 10 stacks. 10 times 3, that's 30% skill damage. After 10 seconds at the cap, the stacks transfer to your other skill. So if you watch your UI, you'll see it drain from your left skill and then slowly build up onto your right skill. And then that skill stays at 30% skill damage for 10 seconds, and then after 10 seconds, it will drain out of the right skill, go back over to the left skill. I guess the point I'm trying to make is this holster at 30% on alternating current and 10% skill damage, I'm essentially picking up 40% skill damage on a holster, okay? Just think about that, on a holster, and it stays up no matter what. It doesn't matter if I'm switching weapons, it doesn't matter what is going on, and it will gradually shift from left to right skills. Left to right, it stays over on the right, and it pulls back over to the left. This is the new best in class. You're going to want this in Title Update 12 for your skill build. You're going to have to find a way to shoehorn it into your skill build, but I'll also show you what I found to be the most incredible skill build in TU12, and I'll show you that right now. Okay, so as promised, here is the skill build I was running around on the Title Update 12, just messing around with friends, etc., etc. This is Empress International. This is a brand set. Notice I didn't say gear set. This is a brand set. This is going to be new for Title Update 12, and it centers on skills. So the one-piece bonus is 10% skill health, so your skills will be able to tank a little bit more damage. Two-piece is 10% skill damage, always helpful when we're going for damage output with a skill build. And then the three-piece is skill efficiency. So remember, skill efficiency is 10% to everything in the skill category, not just damage. So it's damage, haste, health, repair. It's all in skill efficiency. So really what this gear set does is it gives you 20% skill health, 20% skill damage, and then 10% to like haste and everything else in there, duration, things like that. So skill efficiency is really strong. Down here, I've rolled skill damage and skill haste and put a skill haste mod on it. So you get the idea here with Empress International, and this is the build that I was running around with, and I found this to be the best in class. Now, keep in mind, I am using Tactician, so that's why I have one red armor core, red weapon damage core over here. This is on the named Providence body armor, so that's got perfect glass cannon on it. That's the sacrifice. And remember, well, in case you didn't know, the damage category over here for perfectly glass cannon, all damage you deal is amped by 30%. That includes your skill damage. So that's much more beneficial to me than even, say, something like momentum, like momentum body armor. kinetic momentum. So yeah, this is a really strong body armor. You can see I picked it up here. That's the optimization symbol, skill haste, skill damage on it, and I've got perfectly glass cannon. So I was running around here with 3-piece of Empress International, the Providence Sacrifice body armor. Over here, that is, of course, there you go, Wyvern Wear, combined arms, shooting an enemy. So I went for this. You could also go for something like, there you go, the force multiplier. You're going to pick up 5% on the talent. Okay, just 5%. And then you got skill haste over here. But I decided to go with this version. So instead of 30% over there on force multiplier, I'm at 25%. So I lose 5%, but I gain the 10% right there. So in my mind, it kind of made more sense to go with this because I wasn't using the Hanayu body armor. But anyway, there you go. That's what I was running. And then the waveform holster. All right, with this build right here and with buffs from teammates, like if they were using the Scorpio and they went up to 7 stacks and all of a sudden we got the 20% damage, and if somebody was running around with Survivalist and we got the extra damage to targets under status effects, my turret was hitting well into the 300k mark. I can't really know exactly, maybe 310, maybe 320 per shot when the waveform was on the left skill, which was my turret skill. So this is a deadly build for TU12. You're going to love it, especially when you hit that max stacks over there on the capacitor. Now remember when I said that for Title Update 12, we've got a new exotic holster, we've got a new brand set. This is the new gear set. This is called Rigor, and I went for a 4-piece version of this. Rigor, in my mind, is not in a place where I would want to use it. It's just underpowered. It looks on paper to be actually kind of cool, and this was the hardest hidden version of Rigor I could make. Once again, using combined arms on the backpack, using waveform holster. But Rigor is kind of interesting in the fact that it's somewhat like hardwired. You get skill haste, you get skill duration, 4 pieces interacting with your skills. That means you got to manually aim your skills, which I do all the time on PC. Grants the skill 25% skill damage for 10 seconds. This buff cannot be refreshed. So once the buff goes away, you need to aim your skills and you'll pick the buff back up. And then down here, increase the damage buff from 25 to 50%. So re-aiming my skills, I pick up 50% skill damage. It looks good on paper, and it's kind of interesting, the overall cosmetics of it, but Rigor in my mind does not hit as hard as it needs to. Now, if you're interested in seeing what the backpack talent is, it's down here. It's called the Rigor backpack. Canceling your skills will reset their cooldowns. So, I mean, if you're going for like just absolute haste, and it cosmetically it looks great, I might just go in there with the transmog system and switch it over, but it just doesn't hit as hard as what it needs to. But there you go. That's the Rigor gear set. You can see I went everything into skill haste and skill damage. So, you know, I really didn't waste much on this, but you're giving up quite a bit in the extra attributes. I'd say that on average, I was missing 30,000, maybe 30 to 40,000 per shot at max damage on my turret. So that gives you an idea of how hard the other build, the Empress International build, was hitting when it was on max stacks on the turret and I was on max stacks on the capacitor versus Rigor. So in my mind, Rigor needs to get a boost if anyone is going to actually use this thing once Title Update 12 comes out. Okay, so for the last 3 things I wanted to quickly cover on this video, these are the 2 of them are UI, and then of course the optimization station. You can see that I do have my mask equipped. This is up and working perfectly. No issues with it at all, and all you have to do is just go into your options, and it's really easy to handle from there. I'm going to see if I can do it for you right now. We'll go to inventory. There we go, options, and down here, always show mask on. You can toggle this on or off, and then, you know, you can run around with your mask fully on, even if you're in the boo or in a mission, because right now it just hangs down there on the side of your backpack. So I guess an interesting cosmetic effect. But yeah, it's working fine. It's perfect. The other thing I also wanted to touch on is right now in your character loadouts, you now have 16. This wasn't originally in the patch notes. It's since been updated over there on the UB forums. You now have 16 full loadouts, where before I think we had 12. You can see I've already used 2 of them. But yeah, they are up and running. They seem to be running quite fine, although when you go in to manually name them, it's really sensitive. If you're anywhere close, anywhere in the ballpark of what may be considered a bad word, it's just going to tag it for foul language or something like that. So just kind of watch what you're naming your gear sets up there, or else it'll just, you know, just get irritating with it. Last thing I wanted to show you was over here is the optimization station. Of all the things that I've seen now in Title Update 12, this concerns me the most because of the fact of the way that it's working and how it actually, you know, uses resources. You can see down here, it has 4 different resources that it's using, and it has like weapon alloys. Over here is like BTSU tech and stuff like that. Here's the issue with this thing. The first optimization isn't so bad. Like, you can look at this one. It takes 31, 47, 78, and 156. And you're saying, oh, that's not going to be bad. But that's because I'm at 14.3 out of 15 rifle damage. If I was at like 10%, and I had everything else, and I'm like, yes, I got my Ravenous finally, and I don't want to go over there and just endlessly craft over there and use up all my exotic components, this gets really, 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 really expensive the higher and higher and higher you go on the optimization table. Now, whereas in Div 1 we used Shade Tech, and I think it also just like a standard use of credits and everything, this, in my mind, the way it looks right now, if you're on a weapon, like say I have a Ravenous, it has max crit damage, and I have, you know, max damage to targets out of cover, and this is at 9 or 10%, the amount of components that it uses is absurd. It's absurd. It's going to force people to have to grind and grind and grind and grind some more just to get these optimizations the way they are. Now, I know there's 2 different camps out there. There's the one camp that maybe has 1,000 hours, 1,500 hours, 2,000 hours in the Division 2. You got your build pretty much where you need it. Maybe you want to go in there and optimize maybe skill haste from, you know, 11.8% to 12% or something like that. I understand that. And you're looking at this group and saying, good, I don't think they should be able to optimize their stuff so easily. Then there's this other side that, you know, maybe they have 800 hours or 700 hours, maybe 1,000 hours, and their RNG just isn't real good in the game, and they've got a 10% Ravenous rifle. It's just oppressive to them. It's going to force them to grind for a week or maybe 2 weeks to get the necessary components to finally get it to where it needs, and then it just depletes all their resources. This, in my mind, is the one thing, besides the rigor gear set, which I know they can adjust the sliders, this needs to be reworked, because the higher this gets up each recal, or not each recal, each optimization gets higher and higher, this gets harder and harder and harder, and it just chews through resources like crazy. So if anything needs to be adjusted between Phase 1 and Phase 2, this is just my personal opinion, the optimization station needs to be looked at. I don't think it should be too easy, but this is, I mean, this is brutal. This is really oppressive. In its current configuration, it's just basically a slap in the face of the gamer base. This needs to be reworked. Maybe a happy medium between where it is now, maybe cut everything in like a third, maybe a half, somewhere in there. I think then a lot more people would be interested in using it. But if you're way down, if you're trying to optimize something that is starting real low, it's going to just drive you nuts how many resources this is going to require. All right, so there you go, a full rundown, my general impressions of how things are panning out in Title Update 12. And as always, I look forward to reading your thoughts and feedback in the comment section below. As a reminder, in case you haven't done so, please smash that sub button for intensive Division content, and make sure to ring the bell to never miss a future upload notification from my YouTube channel. If you like the video, rate it with a thumbs up, if not, with a thumbs down. Links to support my content creation outside of YouTube, remember, are Patreon and Teespring, both in the video description. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter for all my latest thoughts on most things gaming related. And until the next one, this is LtBuzzLitebeer signing off.